Quickly, my it says we're live. G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah. Good day. How's it going?
Not bad. Oh, while I remember it too. If there's
Yeah.
anybody in the chat, g'day. While I remember it, when's your daylight saving flicking over?
It's beginning of April, so we've got 2 or 3 weeks. Have you got one as well?
Yeah.
You
So
got
so
daylight
there
saving?
might be a period. I think ours is early April too. So there might yeah. I think if there's a crossover where one of us hasn't gone back or gone forward, we'll skip that week until you've fully
So
locked.
yours ends on the 1st of April.
That's correct.
So you go forward on the 1st of April now.
No,
If I
no, I
just
go
do this,
back.
you go back, sorry. Go back, we
Yes.
go forward, yes. Fall back, spring forward.
Yeah.
UK. I think we're Sunday the 29th of March. Yeah, so the same thing.
So that way.
So we spring forward. So in effect, I could start earlier because you will have fallen back and I would have gone forward. So we'll have to work out what the times are going to be.
Okay. Yeah,
No
that's
worries.
no big. I just thought that we would get that over and done with while we're live, while there's no one watching. But you know,
I'm looking
we're
forward to
here.
getting up a lot later.
Oh, look, I appreciate you jumping on. Look, let's just see what happens over the next couple of months. You know, we can go back to Sunday New Zealand time, so we can go back. You know, but as you rightly said, you know, we clash with a lot of other shows. So,
well, principally we clash with Johnny's late night Sunday night,
yeah,
late night bash,
yeah.
which is, to be honest, is I don't mind. Mondays less people are on now than
Okay.
I've noticed. But anyway, so
Okay.
give us an update.
Okay.
Give us an
Well,
update.
this suits me.
Yeah, I mean, it suits me as well. I mean, Monday morning suits me fine. I've got to get up and at some point and deal with the kids and stuff. That's all right. And I normally, well, given the current climate, I should be working from home for the foreseeable future because I can.
Yeah.
I should be self-isolating as quite a lot, I think, and battening down the hatches a bit. Not completely, but I don't need to go in the office. I work in a large office, which has 1,500 people in it from all over Bristol.
Yeah,
So I don't. There we are, Arvin. How you doing?
Good morning. Arvin. I'm a little bit like you. I'm a little bit concerned about this international thing that's happening, this disease, germ or whatever. I'm not going to take it to the extreme where I'm going to hoard toilet paper and buy pasta.
It's funny that, isn't it? It's just bizarre.
The city that I live in hasn't experienced anything like that at the local supermarkets. But look, I think and Arvin will agree too, I suppose. You know, we have to be careful, Simon. We're not going to,
yeah.
For
me, the issue is not that if I get it, well, I'm still relatively young, relatively fit, and
sure.
It's who you've got in your circle.
Correct.
I mean, my mum is 84.
She doesn't want to get it.
It's a much worse. And my next door neighbour, who's in her 70s, she's got quite a lot of respiratory issues. I don't want to give it to her. No. I mean, that's really the point, isn't it? It's never mind. You and I get it or whatever. We'll be laid low for and be fine pretty much. It's those people that parents, with who have health issues or who are elderly, who if you give it to them, that to me is the tricky bit.
What about these businesses? Like here in New Zealand, we've got a rugby competition that's played between Australia and New Zealand. And we have a rugby league competition where there's a New Zealand team. So they're going to cancel those competitions because if you come in from Australia, you have to self-isolate yourself for 2 weeks. So we're going to get no sport. now
Nope.
they're going to pass a law where anything over 500 attendees is
Cancelled.
basically illegal, cancelled.
Yeah.
So are you going to have the same situation over in the UK?
Well, we've already got, to a certain extent, they've cancelled the Premier League football. They've cancelled all the league's football.
Oh,
for the
really?
next 4 weeks. 4 weeks, yeah. There's been no,
okay.
There was no Premier League football or rest of the football leagues football.
Okay.
This past weekend that we just had, and that's off for the next 4 weeks. They've cancelled the 6 nations. Sorry,
that's correct.
Italy,
I caught that.
Yeah.
Yep.
They've cancelled that. They've cancelled any large sporting event is really being cancelled now.
Well, last week they had a cricket tournament in Australia. They had a 1 day between Australia and New Zealand in Victoria, and there was no one in the stadium. It was just played between Australia and New Zealand. And David Warner didn't realise he had 50 runs because normally there's a crowd there. He didn't realise he'd scored. No bullshit. I was watching it. He'd scored 50 runs.
No applause. Waiting for the applause that never came. Yeah. How interesting. That's funny.
And didn't realise he'd scored 50 until one of his mates came over and pointed.
Pointing at the scoreboard. Yeah. How funny. Yeah. So all of that is going down right now in the UK.
Wow.
We've had, as you just pointed out, we've had quite a lot of. And did you see my Facebook page of empty toilet?
Yeah.
And those two. I mean, it wasn't a queue. Weren't being trampled in the rush. But you're right. People have bought up all the pasta, it's all the nonsense, and you kind of go. And I was thinking about it yesterday, just idly. I looked at my. I've got a larder over there behind you. And I thought to myself, you idiot, you've got enough. I mean, I haven't done any sort of buying at all. I've just bought normal stuff for the week, and that's about it. But I went there and I thought, I said, I've food in here to feed me for like 2 months. I could go. I never mind a bit off. So I was like for a week. God, I could go on for years with this. It's a.
We don't call them larders here in New Zealand. We call them pantries.
Ooh, pantries. Ooh, I see.
But I know what a larder is. But look, same with us, mate. If we had to survive on the food in our pantry, 2 weeks easy.
Really, no problems at all. With what I've got now. Never mind. Hoarding stuff, bulk buying. That is like. What you're doing, but I've got enough stuff to last me a lifetime. Anyway, and then I got, I bought some toilet rolls the other day. It's fine,
Oh, wow.
But I mean, the other bit that really interests me, but I mean, in a bit more in an area, but is that, of course, the other thing that's happening is people are cancelling tours. Musicians are cancelling tours. Bands are cancelling tours, left, right, and centre.
Oh, big time.
So all of a sudden, people's incomes, musicians' incomes, are going to go down a lot in the next,
well, not even musicians, Simon. You got roadies, you've got
absolutely, yeah.
And guys like you and I who want to go and see Kiss, for the 20th time on their 10th farewell reunion, with David Lee Roth, and you've saved up, and your wife said you can go to Las Vegas, and now you can't go. You got to feel sorry for them, eh?
Yes. I'm devastated about not being able to go see Kiss in Las Vegas on their farewell tour.
Yeah.
My wife has definitely not said I can go to that, which is quite right too. It's yes, there's a talk. But you're right. The real, a much smaller musicians. People I know like Chris Buck, my mate Chris Buck. Buck and Evans. They very properly, by the way, completely. I take my hat off to them. They had a gig in Newcastle at the weekend.
That's correct.
Which they cancelled. Said, due to the current health situation, we're not gonna get a load of people together in a pub. Which I thought was pretty public spirited of them, actually, because they wouldn't be probably 250 people kind of thing,
Yeah, well, they have a big Polyfest here in Auckland, which is like the Polynesian people and the Maori people, they get together and have a cultural. It's a big deal because non-Maori and Pacific Island people go there too. It's just like a great thing. Lots of food and things for the kids. They've cancelled that. Yeah. So, but you're right. The Olympics will probably get cancelled.
Yeah, anything sooner than that will get cancelled. And things. It's you can see. I mean, my guitar holiday that's booked for the first week in June. You
ain't going nowhere, buddy.
Well, no, I don't. Well, interesting. Last Tuesday, Ian sent us an email. Very considered email. Really good. Saying, laying out where they were last Tuesday. And how relatively against the population, how relatively small people. And that in a week, it's gone from 4,000 people to 25,000, like that.
You won't. Hey, you're not going, are you?
No. Great Vanzini, good morning. How you doing? No.
Hi, great. Hi, Vanzini.
No,
that's good.
I've booked none of it. Well, because I, as usual, prevaricating about stuff. But now I've chickened out. I'm not doing anything because they reckon 10 to 12 weeks, which is pretty much when I'm supposed to be going, will be the height of the UK. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I'll just go off to Italy, to a small village that may not be infected, and go and infect all of them, just to teach them. Yeah. No, I mean that would be. I think that would be socially quite irresponsible myself, and so I'm not. No, it's so I won't be going to that. But it's a small fry really. But you recognise, don't you, that on the back of me not going, it being cancelled, I'm sure Ian will cancel it. If, Josh Smith, who's going to be doing it, he loses the income of doing it.
That's what I was going to say.
The income of doing it, and.
Yeah, you guys are just going to have to organise and do something over the internet.
Skype, we're going to do Skype lessons. Well, or get together in the UK or whatever. But
that's right.
So at least we're not travelling to another country, but maybe that other alternatives are available to us.
Oh, that's a good point. Keep us in the loop when you make a decision, because
Well, as I say, mainly I'm sitting waiting to see what Ian says about it, really. But I've not booked anything, and it's every day is getting worse, not better, and therefore, I feel that to some extent we have a social responsibility for me to wander off to a small village in Italy and infect a few more people. That'd be helpful, wouldn't it?
No.
Not. And I think that would be, as I say, socially irresponsible. Is the phrase that I'm using. I think in these we've got to be socially responsible. Think about what we're doing, where we're going, who we do, who we're meeting, what we're doing, and I think it's very important that we don't. As I said to you just now, my mum is 84. And I didn't go and see her on Saturday for curry. We normally have sort of curry. I rang and said, you know what? I'm not going to come because, there is no guarantee. I don't want to be the one to give it to you. So she's kind of self-isolating, really, keeping us all at arm's length. But, however safe you think you are, as I said to you just now, I live in a small village in North Somerset, comparatively, not cut off, but, comparatively, self-contained. And yet I went on Saturday to pick up a friend of mine who's come back from university, from London, which has the most cases. And, so I don't know whether she's come into contact with somebody or, you never know, do you?
Yeah.
And one of my team, as I said, texted me at midnight saying his daughter's got it. So he's going to be self-isolating for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, you just keep us in the loop there. I know that I've always mentioned it to you. Hold on, my dog is just. Hold on.
Arvin, absolutely. We were talking about that, and a bunch of gigs cancelled. I've seen a couple.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. It's fine.
My dog got caught up in my lead.
Oh God, strangling itself.
Um,
So I think that,
I know that we've discussed this a couple of times that we haven't done it because we never have time, but we've always spoken about doing reviews on other channels. There's a couple of guys that I watch on a regular basis. My Blues Guitar and a young guy from Poland, a guy called Colin, who uploads a lot of Clapton stuff. But we'll talk about that later on some other shows. But I think probably what's really important for you and I, Simon, seeing that we met on the Johnny Bean show, and we've got bit of a traditional lineage back towards that show. Dave Nesdall's got his own show called Nez. Was it Nez Says?
Nez Says, yeah. Nez, yeah. Snappy title, yeah, good, yeah.
So it's our little plug to Dave Nesdall. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Dave Nesdall's channel, I think it's going to be probably in depth. It's going to be like techie for the guitar. It'll be less entertainment, but more techie, nerdy stuff. Simon,
it's Dave's thing, isn't it? It's absolutely. I think that's right. Yeah. I think Dave wants to have a serious guitar show, doesn't he? You know, John Mancuta is one thing, but you know, and it has an element.
Respect to you, John.
Oh, it's funnier than hell. But did you talking about? But I think that he, that he wants to have a serious, and I think absolutely that should be a really good vehicle for. Oh, it's the first one's really good. Really interesting. Top 20 guitars, kind of 2020. It was good, and I can see that there's lots of places to go with that sort of.
And we wish
hats off to him. It's really good. Yeah, I should be watching.
We wish Dave well. But So
did you see?
Before I said that, I interrupted you. You were talking to Arvin about some guy.
Arvin says he knows a guy here who's had a bunch of gigs cancelled, bar gigs and house concerts and stuff.
Shit.
Yeah, well, and it. I mean, I was just, I've heard, I've seen a couple of things. I don't know if you've seen a couple of things from people, internet people saying, support your local musicians, kind of thing. By buying T-shirts or buying stuff like that, which I think is,
that's a
whilst
good
they haven't got gigs. Well, but just buying
buy some
T-shirt
merch
or a mug, buy some merch, buy some, buy a CD if you haven't got them all. Then this picture could be, but buying something could keep them going for a bit. Because all of a sudden that income that they've had has just plummeted off the cliff. That's just with loads of and the smaller you are, the more difficult. And as you said just now, I mean, for major artists like people on tour. The people who will suffer from that are the backstage guys, the roadies, the sound guys, and all of that, because they're on, sort of, appearance money, if you like, probably.
That's right.
And it all gets cancelled. They just don't get a fee because they're big freelancers, and that's that's very difficult to support them unless somebody But I think that as a community, one of the ways you can. Absolutely, Arvin. Yeah, and bar and restaurant staff. Absolutely, places where people are no longer going to go. All those service industries, airlines. Oh my God, the bottom just fell out of the airline business, didn't it?
Yeah.
In a way you could not have foreseen. The America saying we're closing our borders. Nobody's going to fly here.
How's that going to affect musical gear? Because I'm just having a bit of a look around now in my man cave, and I'm looking at some of the brands of the gear that I've got, and I'm going to take a good guess and say 90% of it's made in China, Simon, where the virus apparently started. So, are we going to experience a price reduction or a price increase, or is there going to be an effect on musical merchandise coming out of China, do you think?
That's a good point. I don't know. I mean, I think possibly the short term, the effect is that I can think of a I think you're right, Great Vanzini. Yeah, run away unless they haul you back in. But no, I think that in the short term, I think it's more likely to be a lack of availability, because if people
I
are not
think
going to work and building things, and I
correct.
can think of a particular incident. I think that in terms of the gear itself, if you can buy the gear, the gear's fine. I don't think, but I have seen a question about this, but the virus doesn't really last very long on surfaces. You know,
No.
A sort of few hours at best, kind of thing. In the right circumstances, it can last a few hours. But so I mean, if you bought something that had been made in China, there's no risk of you getting infected from it, because it'd be, it's more likely to be outside in your own street than that. But I think that I think that that in the longer term, I don't know if there'll be price hikes, but things like, well, yeah, who makes tubes? The tubes are all made by about 3 factories, aren't they? Well,
That's correct.
one of them, at least, Russian and China.
That's
So you
correct.
close those factories, get closed down. There's no tubes. So the whole of the valve amp industry grinds to a smashing halt, because they can't get the basis on which they have their business, i.e., valves. So I can see that being but because it's going to be a roller coaster effect, isn't it? I mean, that China's obviously seems to have got over its hump. There've been very few new cases. Some people trying to get in of new cases, but I think they had sort of 3 or 4, I think, but
Look,
not really any new ones. So they seemingly, I'm just being careful with this, seemingly
yeah.
gone over the hump of,
I think we have to be careful with any news
yeah.
that's coming out of the People's Republic of China. New Zealand has a free. Well, we have a free trade agreement with China, so and the industry that I'm in, a lot of my customers are involved in the manufacturing industry, so I'm hearing lots of things. I'm lucky though, Simon, that a lot of the product that I sell is European based. The products that we sell don't come from China.
Do they not?
So,
no.
But again, I've got friends who have told me, who've got friends, say for example, in the Makita factory over there where they manufacture Makita. Half their workforce haven't turned up.
Yeah.
Haven't.
What you mean? It's not particularly recorded, but they're either got it or.
So, but where are they? But anyway, we don't want to talk about that on this show.
Well, I think sadly it kind of pertains to us, doesn't it? It's because it's going to affect not only. I mean, where you work. I mean, if people are self-isolating and tradespeople are not coming in and buying gear because they're not going to people's houses or whatever, that could be quite tricky. All of a sudden, all sorts of businesses are going to get affected, aren't they, by it?
Yeah.
Sorry. I think that.
I'm just mindful of the time because it's 7 o'clock, and there's a couple of other things that we that we wanted to talk about. One of the things that caught my attention last week, and I was lucky enough to get the information passed on to me by a very, very good friend who's never been on a show with us. Dave passed on some information to me about Peter Jackson, Sir Peter Jackson, I should say.
Sir Peter.
Sir Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings mastermind, has got the rights by the 4 people who make up the Beatles estates, or whoever controls them, to have access to all the footage, not just some of the footage, Simon, all of the footage that they filmed for Let It Be. So I've done a bit of research on what's out there, but I'd like to get your opinion on any of the research or some of your thoughts before I give mine.
Yeah. Well, seemingly that he's been given access, as you say, to all the footage that Michael Lindsay shot, and all the sound, the recordings that they've got. I think it's a case, he'll obviously be sifting through, because the tricky bit is you've got to make hundreds of hours into a movie of some description, and you've got to make it into a movie that has a different arc to the one that Michael Lindsay Hogg made, 50 years ago. So, you've got to decide what else you're going to put in, what you're not going to put in. You've got to get it past the four of them, haven't you? Paul and Ringo and Olivia and Yoko as the representatives of, it's obviously it's going to be centered around the concert, the live concert on top of Savile Row, the thing. But I think that's his problem, isn't it, Peter? He's going to get hundreds of hours. It's a bit. Did you see his World War I movie?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. Brilliantly done. But it's a similar. I guess it's not a dissimilar sort of issue in that you've got hundreds of hours of film, and you've got to put together and say, what story am I going to say? What story do I want to tell? What is the arc, of that story, and what am I going to include and what am I not going to include? How upset are all the Beatles fans that I'm not going to include this bit but that bit, kind of thing.
Well, I think the reality of the situation for Peter Jackson is that he's going to be under the guidance, whether he likes it or not, of Disney. Now we all know that true, Disney have got the money. So I'm a Beatles fan. I'm a Beatles nut, Simon. I'm not a Beatles expert, but I'm a Beatles fan. I've been listening and reading about the Beatles since I was a young boy. And any Beatles fan, Simon, worth his or her salt, knows exactly what was happening around that time when Let It Be was being filmed.
Yeah.
So I would like to get as much of a truthful representation from Peter Jackson. I would like to see the arguments. I would like to see the name calling. If you got a film together for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and turned it into a hippie fest where the four Beatles are sitting there with Yoko Ono smiling and happy at each other and playing music, and you and I walked out of there thinking, oh, that's just so great. That's that's not the presentation I would like to see.
No, and in a sense, that's what I'm saying about, that his difficulty is working out what story does he want to tell and what is the arc of that story. And, he's got 55 hours of original footage and 140 hours of audio tapes, including 42 minutes of the band playing on the thing. So obviously you'd say the 42 minutes of them playing on the thing would form the centerpiece, really, wouldn't it? Certainly, quite a lot of it as their final gig. And but you're right, that the workings in the studio and the kind of, the sort of the tension and the, that went on. How much of it does he feel as though he can show? Because let's be fair, you want to have a rounded experience, don't you? It can't all be, just the arguments, yeah. Because that would be weird.
What he'll probably do is he'll probably have the Disney film, which will be an hour and a half, and then you'll buy the DVD, which will be volume 2 or the second disc or the director's cut that you'll download, Simon. Which will have, the arguments and the name calling for guys like you and I and Arvin and Van Zenny, who are Beatles nuts, because I don't want to sit there and look at John Lennon call George Harrison an idiot because that's what gets me off. But it would be good to see that in context, because we've read, haven't we, lots of accounts where they were name calling, and they were vicious. They were vicious to each other, and I think it would be great in the context of the story. Maybe they'd give you two versions, one for because I think we have to be mindful of the fact too that Ron Howard's film served Beatles fans really well. It brought a younger generation of, you're saying that you've got young daughters, so that, for example, 16, 17, 18 or 19-year-olds, they're going to watch that and they're going, oh yeah, okay, my dad spoke about the Beatles, my dad's got shitloads of Beatles records, and so the Beatles are pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yes, the Beatles' original boy band, but I agree. I mean, I think I don't think now, but they can't. As I say, he's got to get, if he's making a film which has a beginning, a middle, and an end, he can't just say, interestingly, the Michael Lindsay Hogg version contains almost nothing about the arguments.
That's correct. Nothing.
It really doesn't contain almost something. There's a bit of McCartney criticising Harrison's guitar parts.
We had to wait till Anthology came out in the mid-1990s to get some of that on tape, where George said, "Do you want me to leave? If you want, I'll play anything you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me what you want.
Whatever it is that will please you, I'll do it." Yeah, and I think that
God bless him.
God, well done, George. Yeah. Famously a bit like that, George. But I was just thinking about a story that somebody, when it went to ask him, said, "Would you mind signing this?" "Yes, I would." Somebody went and asked him for an autograph. "Excuse me," said Mr. Harrison, "would you mind signing this?" "Yes, I would." "I would mind. I'm not bloody doing it."
Bloody Englishman. That's exactly what an Englishman would say.
Oh dear! I can't help laughing. I don't think it's the best way to treat your fans, but it just makes me laugh. "Would you mind signing this?" "Yes, I would." Well done, George. That's keeping up the tradition of slightly curmudgeonly to things. But I think, going back to this, that's my thing, is that Disney or no Disney, as you say, you can't. You've got different. Any fan, anybody who's a Star Wars fan will know this. That making a Star Wars film is a bloody poison chalice, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Because the people who are nuts about it, I mean, really nuts about it. There's a lot of nuts people. That you're never going to satisfy them all. Oh well, he should have done this. No, and you see that, with the Star. I mean, particularly Star Wars things, but I could see that 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 he's got to make a film, as I say, that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got to show, to some extent, all the different facets of it. Out of what he's got, those 55 hours of film. You can't just have a film just with arguing all the way through, because that would just be boring, wouldn't it?
Well, apparently some of the footage he's got good close-up footage of the guys playing their guitars. He's got apparently camera footage across Ringo playing the drums. So he, apparently he was capturing all this before the time. If you look at Clapton's concerts now, there's always close-ups of him playing the guitar. If you look at the Stones, there's always something going on. So apparently he's done this. So if we get a lot of that footage, and you being a guitar player and a guitar nerd, if you can see John playing his Casino, playing some chords and finger picking, that would blow us away, because we've never seen that.
Oh, but my point exactly, that so you've got to balance off, and as we said before on these things, that I think I said last week, that for a lot of us, just as an example, but the most interesting bits are the musician bits.
Sure.
You know, the bits that music, you know, for me, the most interesting bit probably of Keith Richards' autobiography is that little chapter in the middle where he goes into his tunings and that to me was the most interesting bit about that book. You know,
Yep.
I'm riding down to Morocco in the back of a Rolls Royce with a beautiful woman, kind of thing. You know, we all want that, you know, because that's Keith. But to me, that's the most interesting part of that book. And I think that you're right. For a lot of people, the most interesting bit is, what are they doing? Can we get into the process of
Yes.
recording? How did the Beatles record?
Yes.
What do they do? What's their creative process? And I think there is something in that, isn't there? That hopefully 55 hours of footage might show some of that, how they worked,
what conversations were they having in the recording booth?
Proper conversations, creative conversations, not just not just arguing kind of thing. Now, it may be there isn't a huge amount of that. I don't know, but you would hope that would be part of it. That as you say, showing them playing their guitars and mucking about, maybe coming up with things, maybe what is that creative process, because there's not a huge amount of that, from the late 60s. There's stills and there's the old films, and Rolling Stones have some film of them doing Sympathy of the Devil and those sorts of things.
So who's that going to appeal to? Guys like you and I and Arvin and Vanzini. Yeah, because it's the arguments, it's the tension, it's that negative story arc that normally tends to be what films and movies and documentaries are about, and they'll probably make a play on Yoko. They'll probably talk about how
I can't wait to see her being wheeled in her bed in the studio.
About how that was a negative issue, and then they'll have Paul McCartney come on saying and Ringo saying, "Oh, it was great, it was fine, it was fantastic." That's no.
Well, but but that's my point about Jackson's major problem is finding an arc, the arc of the story,
Yeah, but who's Peter Jackson?
To balance off all those things.
Who's Peter Jackson though? What credentials does he have, Simon? Just because he's created and three of the greatest movies in the history of cinematography, and he's a Kiwi, which will certainly help.
Yes, but not the you're biased or anything. Is
he a Beatles fan?
Well, I think he is a Beatles fan. I mean, but you're right. You're absolutely right. But I think first and foremost, actually, I don't know whether being a Beatles fan is necessarily an advantage or not.
I think it helps.
I think it probably helps in terms of understanding where they place in history. I think as I keep saying, the key issue for him is what is the story, and this is a filmmaker thing. So he's a brilliant filmmaker, and I think that's probably the major thing. Is I've got 55 hours of what story do I want to tell? What is the story here?
CGI? Do you think they'll put any CGI in there? And they're pretty good at doing that kind of stuff, Simon.
They might clean the film up a bit digitally. They probably clean it up if it's because I don't know whether it's even been digitized. It probably might still be on film.
Oh no! Apparently the film is spectacular. It's in great nick.
It's in great nick. Oh right, okay. Oh fine. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they won't have to tidy it up, No, but I don't. Painting in crowds around Savile Row.
That's I think it's worth asking the question. Yeah,
orcs in the studio.
Are they going to have some apple scruffs there? In the studio.
Look, paint them in. Good idea. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I don't think he's going to be taking liberties with reconstructed reconstructions using actors. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen myself. But I
think it'll be a serious film. I think it'll be one for Beatles fans.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a serious film, one for fans, and you know the good thing about Disney though is they're pretty smart, and they realize that guys like you and I and Arvin, you know, they're going to bring it out in package lots, aren't they? They're going to have like the single DVD, and then they're going to have the double DVD, and then they're going to have the double DVD with the record and the book,
5-hour director's cut.
And you know, so you can get 5 or 6 different price points, Simon, and then they're going to come out. Then they're going to come out with an Epiphone Casino to celebrate the Let It Be, called the Let It Be model.
50 years late, the 50-year anniversary of. Yeah, well, yeah, maybe yes. Well, yes. I mean, there's a massive merchandising thing surrounding
big money.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, big money. Lots of, but you know, I mean, I think that that, as I say, his issue, Jackson's issue, he's got to. He's got to work out how he tells the arc of the story, gets it all in, the different bits, but doesn't piss off Paul McCartney or Ringo or Olivia Harrison. Not too much of. So my guess is that there won't be massive amounts of all their arguing, because I don't think that would make a very good film. Just them arguing all the time, would it?
No. But I think I'll be pissed off if they didn't include any of it, because that's not the story.
No, absolutely, and I think but that's my point is that that what is the story is that they were splitting up. There's a load of aggravation. They're all kind of thinking about maybe doing some solo projects, and not all of them play on everything. Some people, whoever's there, but that has to be in the story and confronted, and and the creative tensions and the personal tensions between them, exacerbated by I don't know, Alan Klein and business and Apple and all of that. There's a story there, all right. There really is a story there that needs to, and hopefully, if somewhere in that 55 hours you can produce an hour and a half that will get it in. I don't think we're going to get
any more information from Ringo and Paul McCartney that we don't already have. Most of that new information came out on the Anthology series in the mid-1990s. So I think for posterity's sake, they might have them there. Like a little bit like Ron Howard's film. They've got Paul McCartney there saying what they did before they went and dressed up, and then all of a sudden, bang, they were out there. I think they might sort of include those kind of interviews, but I don't think we're going to get anything new, are we?
I don't know. It's as I say, I'm just sort of reading here. Apparently, Beresford, the band, convinced Lindsay Hogg to remove contentious scenes and stuff, from the original film, and just play that down. So obviously,
that was Paul McCartney.
That's being released as well, isn't it? Let It Be, the original film's being re-released as well as a kind of, and apparently we haven't seen half the rooftop concert. Apparently that 42 minutes, they only had 21 in the film.
Yeah, apparently Paul McCartney was adamant about getting rid. John Lennon couldn't give a shit about which is understandable when you consider his state of mind back then. He couldn't give a shit about a lot of things,
No.
But the good thing about Paul McCartney is he probably knew the Beatles brand, knew what the Beatles were going to be 50 years later, or 20 or 30 years later.
Yeah.
Smart cookie, wasn't he? Didn't want to show them, kicking each other, like Liverpool Scousers do in the nuts. What's Alvin said here?
No typecasting there then.
Yeah.
Jim Jarmusch.
What'd you do in the weekend? I went to Liverpool for a wedding.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, good. Yeah. Lots of my dad used to say, lots of effing and fighting.
Well, I hope so, Arvin. We hope so. He's certainly got the material, hasn't he, to give us something that Beatles fans probably have been waiting 50 years to get. And Simon, that could be everyone from a Beatles perspective always talks about Abbey Road being the last nail in the coffin, but technically Let It Be was the last album. So this could be the bookend. This could be the great bookend, Simon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there could be lots of, you're hoping for, much more of a glimpse of, them splitting up, what's going on, I mean, I've heard stories, of, in the morning they're in a boardroom, with their legal team, arguing about legalese stuff, and then in the afternoon they go to the studio, and record. It's like, really? How does that even work?
So I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because there's some footage there where George Harrison's saying, "I've got no idea what I'm signing here," and then they go and record, like you're saying. Can you imagine a band from the 80s or the 90s? Can you imagine any of these big bands? They refuse to talk to each other, Simon. So let alone go into a studio and record some songs together. Does that show actually how tight the Beatles were?
It's a bizarre sort of compartmentalization of their different parts of their lives, isn't it? That you can, that on the one minute you can be signing some legal document that, whatever, and the next minute you're, you're having some legal argument against your fellow band members, and yet 3 hours later you're in the studio because, I find that weird. Yes, absolutely weird. That you could do that and people didn't go,
But isn't that the British way?
Certainly. We'll have to have a cup of tea. Put the kettle on, and then we'll go off and do what? Then we'll go back to work, chaps. Well, I think that's
remarkable.
I don't know. God knows. I don't know. I don't know if the Beatles could be considered as being that British, to be honest. But not in that, in that way. I think it's a previous generation. I think that could easily be true, but not so much. I don't know. Are they far enough in to offer a timeline? Do you know when it's coming out?
No. I did a little bit of research yesterday, and I can't see anything Vanzini on anything as far as a release date at this stage.
Except it'll be this year, won't it? 50 years of it.
Yeah, I did get told by a friend of mine today who was on a Beatles group this morning, saying that apparently Peter Jackson's production team are asking anybody if anyone's got any footage from that era, from when Let It Be was being recorded, produced, or whatever, to put into. So maybe Simon, your dad's uncle, who was the cab driver who dropped Ringo Starr off, may have had a camera and may have filmed, Ringo going into Abbey Road.
My dad's uncle would have been was Sir Joseph Swan, who invented the light bulb. There you are. So in the Victorian era with Edison, he had set up a company with Edison. Anyway, I'm so aggressive, but yeah, he's a Victorian, so he probably hasn't got any footage.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But going to actually, what was it? What was the studio where they recorded? It was where they play rugby.
What do you mean, Twickenham? Twickenham.
Yeah, Twickenham. That's where they. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, maybe they might get some new footage too that we won't know.
I was going to say, that must be a long shot, that, isn't it? I mean, because 1969, 1970, not that many people had. I didn't know. Knew a few people with stills cameras, but not film cameras. Yeah, 8mm film cameras, possibly to home movies. Somebody, that sounds like a long shot to me. I mean, these days, camera footage. I mean, phone camera footage. I mean, all over the bloody place. You'd be snowed under with stuff, wouldn't you? These days, if you asked us, you have it all over the place. But yeah, I mean, but the interesting bit is that I can't imagine who would have any who wasn't because I mean in those days what's that enormous thing you've got on your shoulder? Oh, that's a camera. It's not very discreet, is it?
I got some footage when Ron Howard did his film. They got about 2 minutes footage from a couple of people.
Some 8mm stuff.
So I can't remember whether that was in the UK or in
footage. See, the interesting part is there's a certain amount of news footage, isn't there? See, in the UK, each region has its own regional news thing. Yeah, Super 8. You're right, Graham Van Super 8 is all silent, isn't it? That's true. Well done for pointing that out. That's entirely true. But in the 60s, they all had their regional, news things. I don't know whether you have the same thing, but there's like Southwest that does all kind of Bristol, and then there's Wales that does Wales, and Yorkshire TV did, Now they quite often have bands that came in. So they'll have an interview with the Rolling Stones or something. Yorkshire TV will have an interview with the Rolling Stones from the 60s. That nobody else will have. In their archives, kind of thing.
Or maybe you might get something, but yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see
Thames TV or something, popped in for a day to kind of, you might get some sort of newsy type footage out of it. That's possible.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the end product, and obviously, you and I have got a Beatles tangent to the show, aspect to the show. So if we hear of anything, we'll certainly be mentioning it because it'll be a highlight.
Be interesting to see it and review it, and see what we think of it. As a kind of as you say, the Ron Howard one is really good. All that concert footage and stuff, and cleaned it up and did a really good job on it. I thought it was really good. So it'd be interesting to see how what Jackson does with this stuff.
Simon, it's 7:30. I have to go.
Do you have to go?
Yeah,
he's got to feed the family or take the dog out.
Yeah. I've just got a couple of things I have to do for tomorrow, but yeah, certainly. But I can. We'll do an hour and a half next week. But okay. I look forward to catching up with you next week if that's okay. If you can forgive me for doing a quick getaway.
No, not in a yes, of course. I'm fine, So.
Look, I appreciate it. I'll let you say goodbye to the guys.
I was just gonna point. Great Vanzini points out. Like someone here strung all the local stuff together and made the Beatles in Portland.
Wow,
that's interesting.
So it's that kind of stuff maybe that they want, Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Stuff surrounds it, yeah, it'd be interesting, yeah. So thanks, Great Vanzini. Good, and Arvin as well. Thanks for joining in, guys, and making salutary points. It's been really good fun. I've got to go and iron my kid's school uniform now. Very exciting. See, real life beckons. So please stay safe where you are. Try and stay away from the coronavirus, and be responsible.
If you guys hear of anything in relation to this Beatles project, jot it down in your memory banks and raise it with Simon.
Actually, it says here Peter Jackson's Beatles documentary to hit theatres in September.
Oh, really? So when did that get released?
This is Saturday, the 14th of March.
So a couple of days ago.
Disney executive Bob Iger recently announced that the Beatles Get Back will be launched in the US and Canada on September the 4th.
Wow.
There you are.
That's quick.
Mr. Jackson's got a got a deadline.
Wow.
I mean,
September, October, November, December. So you'll see different packages. Yeah, wow, that's going to be great. Fantastic.
And there's going to be a George Harrison Woodland Walk in the city of Liverpool, which will open in the spring of 2021. Those of us of a woodland persuasion. I love these little things. You know what I'm like. I love the minutiae.
That's wonderful.
Well, have a good week, guys. Please stay safe, Graham Mancini and Arvin. Take it easy, and we'll see you next week.
You appreciate it, guys, and so the show next week is the second wave of the British Blues guys. We'll get there. It took us 3 weeks to.
And why Liverpool? Yeah, I know. And why Liverpool doesn't have any blues bands?
Yeah, and it took us 3 weeks to finish Cream, so it might take us 3 weeks.
We're brilliant at it. we've got no producer holding us to what we should be doing, anyway. William's just digressing, sir. Getting back on track, for goodness sake.
All right, see you guys later.
All right, take care, guys. Bye.